Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo, especially to those that celebrate and to those whom it culturally applies, not just socially, but low key, no shade. I'm definitely going to go find me a nice, authentic Mexican restaurant and have a nice little dinner. So, no shade either way, however you celebrate. But yeah, anyway, happy Tuesday, and I hope that your week is going well. I just felt like I actually wasn't, I'm kind of pressed for time, so I wasn't going to do a message today, but something just keeps like convicting me that I need to come to this table. So, when that is the case, you have to be obedient because you just never know what the message may be. So I'm just going to literally try my best to do as quick of a like flash message as I possibly can, but we'll see what happens. Okay? Let's go. 3:25 on the clock, by the way. And also, I'm sure you can hear it, but it's hot today, so I have the air on, and it's just non-negotiable. You probably want to kind of start getting used to that sound. Hopefully it's not too distracting, but as summer is approaching, hopefully, we think, I'm probably going to have the air on more times than not. So forgive me if it is a bit of a distraction. I'm trying to just speak a little bit more loudly. All right, we got the Page of Swords. What's the Page of Swords looking at? We got to be specific today if we want to get through this. The moon, some type of mystery. What's this moon about? Or some type of secret, or there's some curiosity about some mysticism, maybe. Let's say the Lovers, about a choice, the mystery behind a choice, or because this Page of Swords, there's a curiosity to learn something or unveil something, or to at least have some type of intel or deeper look is what I'm getting into something. With the Lovers card, it's given odd man out or outside in perspective. And maybe the moon is like a veil over an actual relational dynamic, such as the Lovers, something that is exalted, anointed, set apart, special, maybe celestial with that moon energy, or sacred. What is the Page of Swords want to know? They want to uncover the mysteries of being a chosen one? The how-to? That's interesting. What's the intentions, though? Because I don't like the moon there for this. Are the intentions pure? Yeah, there's a veil for a reason. Someone's not privileged to some high level information, or maybe like almost like an acceptance into, okay, now this all brings it together. Okay. Some type of acceptance into a society or a special club, or as I said, like a chosen one. Like somebody's finding themselves on the outside looking in, or odd man out, of the fortune and favor that comes along with being integrated with the destiny and purpose of your life. You know, that for you to be in alignment with it and it to be integrated in your path, and there be evidence of that. So it's like that part about it, like all someone can see is like the perks of a certain privilege or dynamic that they wish to have access to, or at least, you know, some type of acceptance or information about. But it's, I mean, like I said, this, and then the Two of Swords coming up, it's like someone is just, if in fact they have noble intentions, which is still questionable, someone, it's like some folks got a long way to go to realize the point of privilege that they are inspired by, or tempted by, I guess I should say. It's like it looks real good on the outside, but when it comes down to doing what it takes to achieve or to affirm, you know, a certain position of ascension, let's say, or even just having evolved into some more supreme expression of yourself, some people aren't really willing to do that level of work, or take that level of risk to face their fears, their inner demons, to confront their shadows, and then ultimately embrace them, you know, in whatever way is it makes sense to do so. It's like it looks real good, but then when you say, okay, because everybody has the invitation, you know, but then when you say, okay, and this is what gets to be in order to this, someone at point A is seeing what it takes to get to point Z, so to speak. And it's not so appetizing. I don't know why that word it's not quite as satisfying, or so, I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but when you realize what all is on the line and what it takes to achieve the coveted realization of the lovers, i.e. a so-called chosen one, because I'm using that term loosely, that's just how it's channeling. It really comes down to weighing, like, if it's even worth it, you know, like, and then not to mention questioning, do you even have what it takes to see yourself through to that so-called finish line, whatever that may be, and in some cases a starting point, a new beginning. So that's what I'm seeing here. But like I said, with this moon, to me, like, it's given like somebody really wants to know the mysticism, like how can they shortcut, or how can they beat the system maybe, or how can they break into that inner sanctum, so to speak, or brotherhood. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm using that word in a second. With less of the sacrifice, or less of the work. That's what I'm getting. So, speaking of brotherhood or sisterhood, today I have been just like bombarded by a poem that I was taught and that I learned at a very pivotal time, a pivotal season actually in my life. A season that contributed a great deal to my personal growth in ways that were kind of unsuspecting, but it definitely did. And the name of the poem, if you were to search it, is A Test of a Man. But I was taught it as a test of a woman. And it's a bit of a sacred passage, even though you literally can search it online. But for me, it's a bit sacred. If you know, you know. So I'm not going to recite it all. But when I say I haven't really thought about this poem in some years now, but for some reason it was just completely like I don't know, like playing on repeat in my mind. And so there was always like more or less kind of a favorite part that I'll speak to, but I'll start from the beginning so it has context. And it's the test of a woman is the fight that she makes, the grit that she daily shows, the way she stands upon her feet and takes life's numerous bumps and blows. A coward can smile when there's naught to fear, and noting that nothing her her progress bars. But it takes a woman to stand and cheer while the other fella stars. So those last four stanzas were always my favorite, but I started from the beginning, like I said, to just let it flow into that. Otherwise, it's kind of choppy. You may not get it. But those last four were the most significant, and it's double layered how this message kind of channeled to me, because number one, like I said, I haven't thought of this poem in a long time. It's significant to a pivotal season in my life, and the way that it was filtering through me, like I just learned it yesterday, or just committed it to memory yesterday. It just came back like clockwork, and also the aspect of it where it speaks about it takes a woman to stand and cheer while the other fella stars. So basically, like, even when you're down and out, you still have the spirit, the character to not just want to see other people do well and succeed and be well, but you actually have the will to even encourage them, to cheer them on. And there's moments in life when that happens, when you're going through your own tests and trials and tribulations, and the true test, aside from a man or woman, just the true test of character is really on how you manage your lowest or most challenging moments in life, and also how you relate to others, and despite that, so here it is all coming together, because when I was hearing the poem before, it used to be kind of like a poem of encouragement, like, keep on going, you're doing great. Like, that's when you kind of recite that poem to remind you of how strong you are. But it wasn't resonating like that in my spirit today. It was like an affirmation of how strong I've been. It was like, it wasn't like, strap in, you're in for a ride type of energy, but you can do this. It was like, no, this is how strong you are. This is the character, the spirit that you've exemplified through the best of times and the worst of times. And this is what has not only sustained you, but has helped you to ascend and evolve as the true woman that you see in the mirror today, on account of not just the trials and tribulations, but the spirit that you have tempered throughout all of those ups and downs and bumps and bruises. And again, still, no matter what, having adversity, having oppositions, enemies, people that believe in you, people that don't, people that you thought you could trust and that would always be in your corner, show you something differently. And ultimately, in other ways, just finding out you just have to stand alone. It's still something about how you weather all of those ebbs and flows that truly exemplify your personal greatness. And a lot of times you don't really get to celebrate that, especially in the way that we live life, because you get over one challenge and there's usually something coming around the corner. But today, as I said, it was, and even in alignment with the holiday today, which is about a victory over Mexico's victory over France many years ago, about victory in the time of war that ultimately led to securing their independence later on. And all of that, if you can hear it, it all aligns and all resonates. So as someone is thoughtful about how to kind of pierce the veil to this upper echelon, so to speak, of life experience, at least from their perspective. That's the secret. That's the charge, and it's no different for one than it is for any. And sometimes when you are, we can, what's the right word? Make it difficult. What's the word that I'm looking for? To make it, what's the word? It's right there on the tip of my tongue. Complicate. We can complicate things and, and perceive things to be far more intricate than they actually are, and not to trivialize it either, because like I said, it is a great feat to maintain, or to at least eventually cultivate a spirit of temperance no matter what, let alone to master it. So I'm not trivializing it or demeaning it, but at the same time, there's something about the essence of that reality that is quite simple. It's just a matter of integrity, and that's the point of start, point A, for someone that, for some period, that almost wish that there was a different answer, because integrity alone almost seems too steep of a price, or too high of a standard to achieve and maintain. They in many ways in their lives, they've already demonstrated that. So when it all comes down to it, and when we come to a season and an era such as this, where it's not a matter of finessing the system anymore, or stepping on people's back, or cutting corners, or faking it till you make it. Like, when it really comes down to who you truly are at your core, for some, that's a tall order to fill. So I get this, but in the spirit of, sharing sacred secrets and practices, as I just shared one to me, that's what it comes down to. If you want to know the secret behind the veil, it starts with your integrity, point blank, period. So that's the only access into the club, so to speak, if anybody was wondering. All right, so let me try to keep going quickly. We're already at 18. Yeah, and look, strength. Exactly. Like I said, that resilience, boldness to go against the grain, against the status quo, against what everyone else may be doing, or what's palatable by societal standards, what you've always known, how you've been conditioned or programmed, like what you see may work for others, right after this Two of Swords, like this, it's really a crossroads moment, when you observe results happening in one way, but the core of your spirit is telling you, maybe even nagging on you, that that's not the way, at least not for you, or there is a way that is more righteous, or more upright, and more honorable, or noble, honest, even, just to put it plainly. Sometimes it's hard, it's tempting to do the dishonest thing, or to cut the corners where it seems like, would be an easy, or at least I would say it would be an immediate, or at least an easy gratification for doing so. But, that's truly the test of a man or a woman, truly the test of the spirit. There it is. You can defer to your primal nature, where there are no holds barred, or you can ascend to your most supreme nature, where there are standards, there are moral and ethical codes, you know, by, you know, established by you, if nothing else. And whatever that establishment is your ceiling. So if that is a supreme source outside of yourself, so be it. But if it's as low as just what you are immediately, you know, what your impulses compel, then that will be your ceiling as well, you know. So I don't know why it's necessary to speak like this, but let me see what's between the strength and the Two of Swords. Ooh, my God, my God. So confirming today. The Temperance. Which I've already used that word. But that's literally smack dab here in the middle with the Two of Swords and the Strength. Not just to aspire to temperance, but then to hold that position, to hold that frequency. That's not easy, but at the same time, it's simple, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how to convey that, because when it comes down to a Two of Swords, this or that feeling, or even the Lovers, you know, I guess it really is the test of the spirit, because it's a matter of what you decide is most valuable to you. You know, like what has the greatest weight, or the least the lowest, what is the lowest threat? I don't know, or like the lowest what's the word I'm hearing? Risks, you know. And that comes out in the wash on a, you know, by way of what you ultimately, the life experience that you ultimately create for yourself, where you find yourself in the end and in the beginning, you know. Especially at a time such as this, where everything is, the veil is being lifted on the mystery behind motives, and fruits speak for themselves as it pertains to the value of choices that have been made up until this point, or the efficacy of choices that have been made up until this point. You won't be able to argue with those results, or to fudge the numbers, or, you know, like I said, fake it till you make it. It will speak for itself what reality is yielded. So, but that's the aftermath. You know, like I said, with the poem that was on my spirit today, it was like affirming of the character that I cultivated to be where I am now, in a state of peace, in a state of balance and hopefulness about the future, of supreme self-esteem and courage, and sheer affinity for the woman that I am, you know, flaws and all, as they say, dark and light, you know. So, but what that poem was doing, again, it was affirming what facilitated that state of fruition. And I guess it works on the other side, as I said, to kind of tell you, to almost give you the keys in the sense as to what that gets to look like, if you're still trying to get there, or still trying to achieve or attain that state of being. But there was something else I was trying to say. Oh, I was saying, like, the aftermath is the fruit. You know, at that point, it's not too late to, as I said, begin again, or start fresh, or on a new path, turn over a new leaf, whatever. But what you have is the evidence of your faith before that moment, before the present moment. So you can't go back and do over, but you can move forward and do better. I like that. I like that. You can't go back and do over, but you can go forward and do better. All right. Now knowing what you know, or having observed what you've observed, taking the inventory that you now have evidence for, it's premium, what do you call it, like premium intel or information for a more productive way forward. And for those that, as I was saying before, like sometimes you don't have moments to really celebrate yourself. Well, first of all, observe who you're evolving to be, then celebrate that. You know, you may never get to the celebration for not even truly realizing how much you've changed or grown, because you're always actively pursuing some new possibility, you know, or some new presence of identity. So when you get a moment to be affirmed, it's not just a matter of, you know, stroking the ego. It's so that you can move forward that much more prosperously and productively, having lifted the veil on the process and the things that have gone into the becoming, you know, as you are, so that it shortens the productivity, time and effort and energy that gets to be invested forward to do that much more, much more greater things, to grow much more magnificent fruits, on account of now having a deep realization and celebration of self against all the odds that were incurred along that way of becoming. Now you get to just be with that knowledge, with that understanding, that inner standing. And the being becomes so much more effortless, is what I think I'm trying to get to. Where temperance really is a flow. The strength is quiet and eternal. It's not aggressive or threatening. It's just grounding. No wonder. It's a great club to be in. It is. All right, let me get a couple more. Ooh, that was almost the Five of Pentacles. I'm glad it popped right back out, because we ain't on that. Yeah, with the King of Swords here. There's just something just so straightforward and honest. You know, this is the integrity. This is the, yeah, that's what that is. That's what that is. This is the integrity. And honestly, it does give way on all sides, again, to the hope of those that may be starting from such as a page perspective, where it's like, how am I ever going to do that? Well, here's the evidence of how possible it is, you know, of the potential, and, you know, with the right intentions, with the purest intentions. And it doesn't have to be by the book or the manual of anyone else's life experience, but we can all universally relate to the integrity to oneself. Being honest and honorable and fair and objective. Yeah. Not being too overly emotional, but hopefully not being calloused either. Or what's the other word? Apathetic. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't think so. Maybe so. And that again connects to the message that of the poem, about even while, you know, because the most of the message, as I said, is about overcoming great challenge, you know, a great struggle, trial and tribulation, but still holding your head high, but still staying 2 feet, you know, 10 toes down, but still wanting the best of life for others, or the best, you know, still having the intention for the greatest good above all. That's the nature of someone that's living in the spirit of integrity. Well, I guess the character of someone that is. But it can't just, the difference between the page and the king is not, is to me, is reading is not a part-time thing. It's not a when it's convenient thing. Like the King of Swords is always the King of Swords. He's always honest. He's always noble. He's always going to do the right thing, you know, or try to see things from the most objective perspective as possible. It's not there. There's a difference in responsibility and accountability between the Page of Swords, who's just learning and growing, to the King of Swords, who not only is expected to know better but do better, you know. So it to me, it stresses the dedication and commitment to being to living in integrity that is non-negotiable and unwavering. It's not like, oh, well, when it suits me, or oh, when I'm getting the better end of the deal, or as long as I'm not hurting too many people, or hell, as long as the people don't know they're getting hurt. No, it's a matter of doing the right thing and being the righteous person when nobody is looking. That's the criteria, so to speak, for the club. And doing the right thing sometimes when it doesn't suit you, you know? All right, I think like one or two more. Yeah, look at this, Hangman, enlightenment. Yeah. That kind of speaks for itself. Like, to me, it's like almost stressing the dedication. Like, even when you don't know the best solution or the best way to respond or react or even proact, you would hold your ground until you were so enlightened. You don't, not to just do something impulsively or, again, dishonestly because it suits you best. There's a commitment to ascension here. Yep. To transcending that carnal, that primal nature. Still not without embrace, though, but also to find yourself suspended liberally between those two realities and identities in a way that is righteous. So as I always say, you can't forsake the flesh because that's what you are born of, but you also can't deny the spirit or ignore the spirit. That's the temperance, finding that happy medium and balance between the two. And no matter what it evens out to be, the commitment still is integrity. One more. I'm doing good. It's only 3:30. That was almost the tower though. Ooh, and that's in reverse. I just can't take that in reverse. There's just no way. Not with all we're talking about here. There's no way. You saw how it flipped. There's no, well, the only thing I could say how it could translate in reverse, as really just kind of makes my point, because the Six of Wands can be about recognition and reward. So the way that it matters in reverse is, as I said, being righteous, upright, honest, honorable, living in integrity with no particular motive, not with the motive to be seen, rewarded, or recognized for it. That's the way that it lives in reverse and makes sense. Like, you don't care who's watching. You don't care if anybody ever gives you a pat on the back, a thumbs up, a great job, or, you don't do things for show, for accolades. You don't put on airs of a righteous man or an honorable man because of, and this turns back to what I was saying earlier, because of the spoils of that privilege, the favor that may come along with that the favor, and maybe even fortune, even though we don't have any pentacles, but there's fortune in a different sense that comes along with being in a favored position, such as the Lovers, where life is just working seamlessly for you most of the time. And even when it's not, you have the will, the strength, the resilience to always balance it out. That is a gift. That is a privilege, to constantly be able to create peace and harmony and balance in your life, no matter what the circumstances are, and to maintain your integrity while you do it. Your integrity to yourself, most importantly, and your supreme, even more specifically. That the true character of a woman or a man, or of a spirit in human form, is when nobody's looking, how do you live your life? How do you carry on? How do you talk about people? How do you treat people? What energy do you project toward people, whether you know them or not? That's the type of character that's easily promoted and or exalted, with all the spoils that come along with it that they weren't even in it for, simply on account of the fact that they weren't in it for that. It's righteousness just for righteousness' sake. And it's not superiority, like I'm better than you, or that I can do no wrong, or nothing like that. It's not, because everybody's standard everybody's brand, I'll say, of righteousness could look different from the other. And again, that is the composition of your ceiling of supreme. So it's not a comparison, you against me or mine against theirs or anything like that. It's more so about, as I said before, when you know better, or you see a way or an alternative, and you choose the adverse for some, ulterior motive, or some more easily or immediately gratifying cause. That's when a conflict of integrity truly does materialize, usually in an unfavorable way at some point in time. And like I said, it can't be a matter of, look at me, I'm so holy, or look at me, I always do the right thing, or I just love everybody. But if it's not really in your soul and your spirit, if it's not true to you, that's a breach of integrity as well, and your life will exemplify it. But in the upright, which is how I'm choosing to take it, as all the reversal, which makes sense, now that I really see it that way. But there's a relentless state of victory and success here when you're committed to integrity at all costs. It comes with the territory, which is no wonder it's so greatly coveted, because it's a level of access and exaltation that can't be bought. It can't be finessed, and it can't even be sustained unless it's pure and organic. And that sustainability in itself is rewarding to the spirit and energetically. Again, it's the gift that keeps on giving, because if nobody sees you and if nobody cares, it still somehow adds value to your spirit to know at the end of the day you will always prioritize doing the righteous thing above all else, and being the most supreme version of yourself that you can possibly be. Like, that's your commitment to yourself. That in itself is a reward that does materialize, that does draw attention, that does draw speculation, intrigue, that does magnetize curiosity. So as I said from the beginning, you'll be an example of which people will be curious and fascinated by. They'll want to know how you get to such a state of balance and harmony in your life, no matter what the material aspect of it may express. It's an aura. And they'll be so drawn to it that they'll want to know, how do I attain that for myself? Or in the worst case scenario, how do I take that from you? But like I said, when it's all simplified in its most non-complicated form, packaged and branded and offered, most people will not receive that offering. They will not accept that reality for themselves, because in the world that we live in, it just seems too great of a cost, with far too little guarantees for themselves to achieve in the fullness and capacity of which they may observe it on you. So with that being said, also be mindful of who you throw your pearls to. Live your life out loud and let that be an example all day, every day. But there's some folks that just, they'll claim to want to know the way for themselves, and they just don't even have the capacity to see it through. And sometimes that can surge that good old spirit of envy and jealousy, where again, as I said, they'll become adverse to your organic energy, just simply on account of feeling inadequate themselves. And then you got a whole nother situation on your hands that ain't nobody got time for in this season and in this era. So just be mindful that everybody that wants to know the way ain't really trying to take the journey. So, but for those that are, I just gave you a key, and it's integrity. Plain and simple. Like I said, some are not even going to, they are not, and look, they can't even fathom that level of commitment and discipline and determination to something that does not have an immediate gratification or a guaranteed result. And those are the ones ultimately that will miss out, on having the most fulfilling, at least, experience of life, unfortunately. But that one ain't on you. Sorry to say. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Until next time, well, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, enjoy your day today, and until next time, as always, celebrate yourself today. We're in this holiday spirit. It's a 5/5 portal. There's a connection to something very culturally that's transferable to what could be very real in your life, because I'm sure you've had some challenges in your life that are worthy to be acknowledged and for you to be celebrated for overcoming. So if it doesn't apply to you culturally, organically, so let this be a moment of celebration and reflection for you, of how much you've grown. perhaps in ways that when you reflect, as I got a little reminder of a season of time that matured me, you probably either forgot about or have taken for granted in some way, shape, or form. And you might see the connection of how it's literally blossoming and blooming in your life today as we speak. You deserve to celebrate yourself regardless of anyone else's recognition or reward for you being you. All right? It is so, and so it is. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.